Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to another GT Sport Daily Race C race review. We're taking the Group C cars from the Group 1 category around Alsace Village, and to be honest with you, for me anyway, this has been a very boring combo indeed until we rolled out the Wombleskipper account. So here's the race settings for this one. On the screen here, we've got 10 laps to get around Alsace Village. We've just got the racing hard tyre available. It's tyre wears only at ×4, fuels at ×2, none of which present any kind of issues whatsoever throughout the race. And it is a specially provided car for this one, and as I said earlier, it is the Group C cars from the Group 1 category. So there's 5 of them. You've got the Sauber Mercedes C1, have the Mazda 787B, we've got the Porsche 962C, the Jaguar XJR9, and we've got the Nissan RCP92, something along those lines it's called, isn't it? Yeah, so I tried very hard to try and get some interesting races in this one. Unfortunately, I actually spent way too much time in qualifying. Now, my qualifying time is nothing special indeed. It's around about maybe, it was at the top 100 quite comfortably for a while. I don't think it's there now. Unfortunately, that means that I'm starting an awful lot of the races from pole position or very near the front, because it doesn't seem to be a very popular combo whatsoever amongst the players. Now, I kind of understand why people are not that interested in it, but I think the Group C cars are actually quite good fun to drive around this circuit. But yeah, it's not a popular category. Group 1's not a popular category in the game. Then when it's reduced down to just the Group C cars and then put that in with a track that I think is unfairly criticised in the game. I think it is a better track than what a lot of people give it credit for, but in general it's not a popular track, so all that in combination means you get a very lower, a much lower player count than we might normally get for a daily race C. But that was the first race there. We started that one in pole position. The Spaniard behind us managed to hold on for about half a lap, maybe a lap more. He made a mistake. We ended up with the Dutch driver behind us here. He was actually faster than us. He was closing on us, but there was a little bit of drama at the end. As I came out the last corner, my wheel decided to stop working, the accelerator pedal. Thankfully, we had just enough of a lead to freewheel the car over the line and still pick up the win, but just the USB for some reason had worked itself loose over the course of that race, and thankfully it waited until the very last corner of the circuit to actually pop out and stop my wheel from working. So with that small issue resolved and the panic that I'd felt for a split second thinking the wheel was broken turning out just to be an error on my part, we headed into the next race. Starting this one in P number 2 in the Nissan R92 CP, we've got Burst in the Jaguar XJR9 in pole position, so at least this one's looking like a little bit more of a race than the last race to start off with. Now the Nissan is probably the second best car behind the Mercedes at this track, but Burst being in the Jaguar is quite a brave choice because in my opinion it's probably the slowest out of the 5 available cars. However, with the dirty air, despite having the fastest car, it's still not going to be easy to get past, and dirty air definitely plays a factor in this one. Once you get to around about 8 to 6 tenths behind another car, you can just feel the front of your car scrubbing into some of the fast corners, and then sort of you start losing time that way, and you definitely seemed to be a factor in this one. When we did the live stream, I'd certainly felt that I just could not get close to another car, and there was an interesting instance where one of the drivers that started in pole position with a clearly quicker qualifying time, he opened up a gap of about 4 seconds to myself, and then he made the mistake, ended up behind me and just couldn't get anywhere near into position to go for an overtake. So you kind of do find yourself very much stuck behind other drivers in this situation. Coming up to the big banked corner, the big right-handed banked corner, I can't seem to get this one right. If I go wide and do the line that some of the other drivers do, I lose way too much time, so I take a much narrower line and kind of make the course a little bit shorter, and I seem to find that to be the quickest time for me. Coming into this incredibly tight right-hand hairpin, these cars are so clumsy when you come round this corner, and when you try to get on the power, it's very easy to make a mistake. So coming to the end of lap number 1 here, we're holding on to Burst into the slipstream. The Spaniard and the Mercedes behind us pretty much doing the same, but it's pretty much status quo, nobody able really to get close enough to make any kind of overtake attempt. As we come towards the banked corner and the tight hairpin, on lap number 2 you can see everything is pretty much the same as was before. Losing a little bit of time there to Burst on the exit. He's definitely got a better line through there. The Spaniard managing to put a little bit more pressure onto me than I can to Burst. But Burst is about to have a moment that most of us have had in this track here. Just gets on the power just a little bit too hard, throws the car off to the right hand side. He hits the grass, he's got dirty tyres coming around this corner, and we're going to get a run at him down towards the final chicane. Now, in fairness to Burst, he realised the game was up. He moves over to the left hand side of the track, gives us the inside line, and lets us make that overtake without too much of a battle. And personally, I think that is good sort of sportsmanship, because I think if you make a mistake and you realise you're slow into a corner, rather than going ultra defensive and trying to fight for your life, you know, accept you've made the mistake, don't compromise somebody else's race, and carry on and try and recover. But to be honest with you, that was to be the end of that one. Burst, as we've seen in a previous video, I think plays on the pad. Very, very quick driver, but seems to suffer a lot of tyre wear more than other drivers. Seemed to be the case here, because after we got past him, we dropped back, not very quickly, but just gradually, and we were able to pick up the win by around about 5 seconds. Not a terrible finishing time there, 16:55.0 in the R92 CP. We actually set a quicker lap time in that race than we managed in the Mercedes in the first one, so definitely a competitive car. But I think when you see the video towards the end, we will sort of confirm that the Mercedes is the car to be in. So third race here, got the Dutch driver in front of it. To be honest with you, that was about as close as we were to get to the Dutch driver in this one. He had incredible pace. He just drove away from us like there was no tomorrow. We kind of drove away from the Italian behind us, not quite at the same rate, but a very boring race. Lap times were rubbish. Made a few mistakes in that one. We decided to try and make the race a little bit more exciting by going into the pits at the finish, but really that was about as exciting as that one got. But that was a P2. That finishing time there from the Dutch driver, 16:46.4, is definitely the quickest I've seen this week. You may well have seen a quicker one. Let me know in the comments if you've seen anybody completing this race in a quicker time than that. But that was to be pretty much the story for me in EMEA. Every race I entered, I just felt like a time trial more than anything else, because I was just doing so many laps circulating on my own that I decided I would change accounts and see if we could get some action down under. And in this first race, we were not to be disappointed. There's a little bit more action in this race. If you've made it to this point, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. Starting this one up in P2 though, we are in the Jaguar XJR9. Kind of just came onto this account, decided to jump into the worst car, as I said, try to make things a little bit more interesting. I was so bored of just driving around on my own in this race that I thought I would give myself a little bit of a handicap by going into the worst car. Now the Malaysian in pole position is in the Mercedes. I think he qualified 6 times ahead of us. I think it was around about what my qualifying time is in EMEA, so there was a possibility we could maybe hold on to this driver, but maybe not in this car. The Hong Kong driver behind us, Happy Tomato, which is a very cool PSN name I must say, is in the Mercedes as well, and is already beginning to put a little bit of pressure on us. The Jaguar just does not handle these fast sweeping corners well at all, and really does start to drop behind the Mercedes, particularly when you throw in a little bit of dirty air in there as well. So you can see Happy Tomato is very close to us through the sort of 90-degree right-hander there, coming into this sort of 90-degree curved left-hander. Very tricky corner. The car just wants to understeer every single time. No matter what you do, you think you've got the car round the corner, rotated, you hit the power, you understeer. So round the banked corner and come towards the extremely tight right-hand hairpin. We'll zoom in on the radar here because there was a little bit of a warning shot. So I think the gap was around about 4 tenths, but as we brake, you can see just how close that driver gets to us coming round there. Now he makes the corner fine, no problems at all with that, but it was obviously pushing the brakes into that corner there. And 1 lap later, hopefully you'll just skip there, here we come, we're going to exit the banked corner. We're around about 4 tenths ahead of the Hong Kong driver here, and he's going to push the brakes just a little bit too much here. If you look at the radar, makes a big bit of contact with us and pushes us off the track, and that's not a great place to be, off the track there. Try to get these cars restarted once you've been on the grass and you're in first gear. They just wheel spin for days. But that knocked us down to 7th place from P2. Wasn't best pleased with that one, but at the end of the day, we were looking for a bit of action and we got a bit of action. So a little bit later we catch up with P5 and P6. They're having a bit of a fight. The Mazda 787B there, getting a poor exit off the right hand corner. That allows us to go ahead, and the Hong Kong driver there picking up a 2-second penalty for his troubles. I think looked a little bit harsh, but at the end of the day that will be to our benefit when they serve this penalty at the beginning of lap number 4. So these two drivers ahead of us, P4 and P5, they're going to kind of start squabbling over the second part of this lap. We've got Super Caro and the Mercedes there in P4. Seems to be quite a quick driver, but makes a lot of mistakes. He's going to make a mistake coming out of this uphill left-hander, and it's going to allow the Hong Kong driver with the penalty to get a run down towards the final complex of corners. Well, maybe not a run, but the Hong Kong driver thought he had a run, so he went for a bit of an ambitious move, I think it'd be fair to say. Going to compromise Super Caro on the exit here and give us a run down towards turn number 1. Now, we did think about going for it here, but I didn't really want to get into too much of a fight until we were past this driver that was serving the penalty. So if we get a good exit here, we should make up, well, we definitely will make up the position from the driver serving the penalty. Could we get a slipstream and maybe go for a move on the Mercedes? But you just get a bag full of understeer as you come round here in the tow of another car. And to be honest with you, now we don't get anywhere close to the Mercedes there. The Mercedes gets such a speed advantage over the Jaguar. There's very little we can do. And now we are in that dirty air. We are just stuck in this position. So we would drop back as the dirty air affected us through the fast corners. And then once we were out the dirty air, we would kind of gradually close back up on Caro. And he would make the odd little mistake as well. But this was to be the status quo for the next couple of laps. And we'll jump forward here to lap number 6. And you'll find we're still in very much the same position. And we were very much stuck in the dirty air of P4 here. We were looking for some kind of mistake to try and capitalise on, and Super Caro is about to oblige going into the left-hander just ahead. He's going to miss his braking, he's going to go a little bit deep. Now we are a long way behind here, but we managed to kind of try and sneak it up the inside there. Now I thought he closed the door quite abruptly on us. I think we deserved a little bit more space from the driver there. He had made a mistake. As I said earlier in the video, I think when you make a mistake, you've got to be very aware of what's going on around you. You can't just ram the door shut. And he obviously wasn't very happy because we did make contact, and he's going to kind of take his revenge here and obviously just bump past us, pushes out the way and retake that position. Now, given that was the second time it happened to me in this race, I think it's fair to say that I was a little bit angry. The composure was gone. And to be honest with you, coming down in towards this last complex of corners, I did initially brake normally, then I thought, what the hell, he's getting taken out. And into the wall we fire him. Now we pick up a 5-second penalty for our troubles. Of course, we get a penalty. We've actually been brushed out the way twice by drivers, neither of whom picked up a penalty. But we pick up a 5-second penalty, even a 2-second penalty or a 3-second penalty that a lot of our drivers get. 5 seconds for us, which we're going to serve now. And all that really did was put us back behind Super Caro, who's now down in P7, and give us our red SR at the end of the race. Now, I hate doing things like that, and you should just never ever let the game get to you to that point where you're going to make the kind of decisions. Certainly not proud of it, but at the end of the day, you're only human, and we all have a point in these games where we can kind of reach our breaking point. But at the end of the day, it's to your own detriment, so I'd always recommend just do not be that driver. Don't do what I did there. Just accept if other drivers want to drive dirty, then fair enough. And you know, maybe he felt he had his reasons because of what happened in the previous corner, and felt he was justified in doing what he did there. Anyway, it's all water under the bridge, it's all over. We got on with the race here, we're battling with the 787B, and try to go round the outside of them, around the big right hand banked corner. Didn't work very well, was actually quite a bit of contact. I've got to be careful now as well and try to avoid penalties, and as I say that, the 787B just stops on the apex into the tight hairpin, and we pick up another 1-second penalty. So that was this race pretty much over. That was to be the end of any kind of significant action, and thankfully the kind of the hit to the SR wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. We were only down to 89 SR, so we did jump into another race here, and we actually put in a really good performance. We just started in pole position and we drove away, but it was nice to prove that I've actually got some reasonable pace in this combination, keeping all the laps in the 140s. I was a little bit disappointed if we did a 141 flat on lap 10 here, but yes, this race, I have to say, I'll give kudos to PD for trying something different, giving us an original combination, but the settings for it were very uninspiring. No pit stop strategy, Tyre wear and fuel, very little issue. Probably not the best track selection for these cars either, given the number of medium and high speed corners, along with the dirty air, so it's no surprise that this is an extremely unpopular combination. As I said, I will give PD credit for trying something different, but you know, there's so many combinations out there that could be a little bit more interesting that they've never used. So here's one for example, and this might shock you. Since I've been playing the game, we have never had a daily race C of Group 4 machinery at Catalonia in Barcelona. Now that would be a great combination, give us some interesting settings, make us make a pit stop, maybe give us some fuel worries or something along those lines. But yeah, there's so many original interesting combinations out there that they could come up with other than something along these lines. Anyway, pretty much the end of the video. This was a pretty good performance, easily my quickest finishing time. I think it's a 16:51 we finish in here, which is only 5 seconds off the Dutch driver in the race earlier on, which was the quickest I've seen. So that felt like a good way to finish my time at this track and car combination. I've got no desire to go around here anymore. As I said, it just seems to be a very boring combination. I've spent so much time circulating around this track myself, and it'll be I'm not really interested in going anywhere near it again. Hopefully though, I've managed to give you some kind of entertainment over the course of this video. Do hit that like button, do hit that subscribe button if you feel entertained. I do appreciate it very much. Hopefully next week's daily race C is something a little bit more interesting. Group 4 at Catalonia, PD if you're listening. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.